I'm Jennifer. The Thanksgiving dinner that was supposed to be a time of warmth and togetherness turned into a battlefield. As I sat at the table, surrounded by relatives, my mother, Sarah, raised her champagne glass high and declared, "Jennifer is just my trial run. Luke is the final draft. Everything I learned from breaking her, I'll do perfectly with him." The room erupted in laughter, but I sat there, my heart sinking. I reached into my bag, pulled out a small Bluetooth speaker, and placed it on the turkey platter. With a deep breath, I pressed play. The voice that filled the room was not my mother's current one, it was from years ago, cold and full of arrogance. My father, David, a gentle and kind man who had spent his life as a mechanic, his chair scraped violently as he stood up so fast that the table shook. The look on his face was one of shock and betrayal. It was the moment my mother's web of lies began to unravel right in front of everyone. To understand how we got here, I have to take you back to my childhood. I grew up in a small town outside Chicago. My mother, Sarah, was a high-powered executive at a local marketing firm. She was ambitious, controlling, and always had her eyes set on the next big thing. My father, David, on the other hand, was the calm and steady rock of the family. He worked long hours at the local auto shop, fixing cars and making sure our family had a roof over our heads. My younger brother, Luke, was born 5 years after me. From the moment he arrived, it was clear that my mother had different plans for him. I was always the responsible one, the one who got good grades, followed the rules, and did everything asked of me. But it was never enough for my mother. I remember when I was in high school, I was a student, the captain of the debate team, and the president of the student council. My counselor, Miss Thompson, told me that I had a real shot at getting into Ivy League schools. I applied to Harvard, Stanford, and Columbia Early Action. My mother filled out all the forms, using her own email address and phone number, saying it would be easier to manage the communication. On a cold December day, I came home from school to find that all the mail had been opened. My mother handed me a note that said, "Harvard called. Polite no. Try another school." I was devastated. I couldn't understand why I hadn't gotten in. I carried that note with me for years, thinking I just wasn't good enough. My grandmother, Margaret, lived in a small cottage on the outskirts of town. She was a retired schoolteacher, and she had a kind heart. She used to visit our house every Sunday afternoon, bringing homemade cookies and stories. She always saw something in me that my mother didn't. One day, when I was cleaning out my grandmother's attic after her passing, I found a small safe. The combination was written in her delicate handwriting on the inside cover of an old book. When I opened the safe, I found a cassette tape, a CD, and a stack of letters. The letters were photocopies of acceptance letters from the universities I had applied to. Harvard, Stanford, and Columbia had all accepted me. My mother had intercepted the letters, burned the originals, and hidden the truth from me. The cassette tape was a recording of my mother talking to my grandmother about how she had protected me from opportunities that she thought I couldn't handle. I spent months verifying the information. I contacted the universities, and they confirmed that I had been admitted but had been marked as a non-responder. I also hired a forensic audio analyst to confirm the authenticity of the cassette tape. As Thanksgiving approached, my mother called and invited me to dinner. She told me that Luke was engaged to his girlfriend, Emily, and that she wanted to celebrate. I knew this was my chance to expose the truth. On Thanksgiving Day, I drove to my parents' house. The house was decorated with lights, and the smell of roasting turkey filled the air. As I walked in, I saw my mother arranging place cards. She had seated me between my Aunt Lily and my Uncle Tom. Luke and Emily were seated next to her. The chair that my grandmother used to sit in had been moved to the corner. Dinner started, and my mother talked about her latest business success. She boasted about how many clients she had landed and how much money she had made. After the salads were cleared, she stood up, tapped her glass with a fork, and made that cruel announcement. As the recording played, the room fell silent. My mother's face turned pale, and my father's eyes widened in disbelief. The recording revealed how she had intercepted my mail, destroyed my opportunities, and lied to me for years. My father sat down and started reading the letters. He read the Harvard acceptance letter aloud, his voice trembling. "Dear Miss Jennifer, congratulations. You have been admitted to Harvard University's class of year by early action. We would be honored to welcome you to our campus." He looked at my mother and asked, "Where did you think you were protecting her from? What did you gain from this?" My mother tried to defend herself, saying it was for my own good, but her words fell flat. Luke stood up and walked out of the room. Emily followed him. The rest of the dinner was a tense silence. My Aunt Lily drove my father and me home. My father sat in my living room, his head in his hands. He said, "I never knew. I'm so sorry, Jennifer." In the following weeks, my mother was placed on administrative leave from her job. Her colleagues and clients were appalled by what she had done. My father filed for divorce. He moved into a small apartment and started a new life. Luke and I had a long conversation. He was shocked by what our mother had done. He promised to help me in any way he could. He started paying back the money that my mother had cost me by intercepting the scholarship offers. I decided not to go back to the universities that I had been admitted to years ago. Instead, I enrolled in a local community college and started taking courses in creative writing. I wanted to tell my story, to share the pain and the journey of discovery. My 30th birthday was a small gathering at my apartment. I set a place at the table for my grandmother, with her old napkin folded neatly and a copy of her favorite book. My father, Luke, and Emily were there. We raised our glasses and toasted to a new beginning. If you've ever been the one who was overlooked, the one who was called the trial run, I want you to know that you're not alone. We all have the power to reclaim our lives, to expose the truth, and to build a future that we deserve. Who in your life has been calling you their trial run?